Everybody to the Zorich Podcast. I am Chris Zorich, and on today's show, we have the legendary, the All-American, the Heisman Trophy runner-up, and the MVP of the Grey Cup, a good friend of mine, and also a college football Hall of Famer, Raghib Rocket Ismail. Sir, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Love it. 5 to 6, I discovered football.
Okay.
And that was at I didn't know this, but we went to a Super Bowl party.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My sister was really the only one in the house. Like, you know, adults everywhere partying, children was watching videos, just everybody hanging out and stuff. And my sister was watching, my older sister, she was watching the television. And on the television, it was hilarious. I mean, the television was like about this big. And it was like on a stand displayed proudly in the middle of the room, and everybody partying around. And she is like intently just watching what's going on the screen. So I saw her, and I was going to be mischievous and run up behind her, like smacking her back of the ear, give her a wet willy or something. But it was like when I saw what she was watching, I was like, I was like, what is this? And then I said, what is this? And she said, this is football. And then I was like, football? And she started explaining, all right, this team, it was the Dallas Cowboys versus Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl. And she was saying, okay, this team is against this team, and this team is trying to score that way. This team is trying to stop them from scoring that way. Then they'll get the ball and they'll try to score. And she was explaining it all to me. And I remember I was so just like, I understood. I didn't understand it at the time.
Sure.
But when I got older, I was listening to this man give a lecture about the power that our imagination has, and how all of us are equipped with the capacity of unlimited potential. And one of the things he said was, whatever captures your imagination is able to get you to do whatever captured your imagination. You can do whatever that is. And so I flashed back when I was watching what was happening on television as she was explaining to it, it captured my imagination. I was just like, oh my God, this is what I'm going to do. And I had no idea of the limits in my size. I mean, I was always the smallest cat on the team. And I didn't understand just what it took to be able to get to the pro level.
Okay.
That being said, everything that I needed, it was, and this is no exaggeration, was added to me. So the first thing that I remember after watching that, and I don't even remember like how, like my dad didn't talk about football. He didn't, my dad was all about learning how to be a better Muslim. He was like an imam and a sheikh. So, I mean, our conversations were about Black history. Our conversations were about, we were learning Arabic. We were learning how to be Hafizul Quran, which is like memorizing the entire Quran from front to back. And it's a little easier than it would be like memorizing Bible verses, because it's like in a poetic language in Arabic. So it's like learning a song. So when you're younger, man, your mind, we were learning Arabic, like how to read and write Arabic, like just straight Arabic. It was amazing. And so I don't remember talking about football with my father.
Right.
But this is one thing that I do remember. Somehow I figured out when Monday Night Football was coming on television. And man, it was like we used to have to go to bed early. But somehow I knew Monday Night Football was coming on, And the way my father's room was positioned, it was like his door opened like this.
Okay.
And so behind here was his bed. Right. Over here was the television in the corner of the room.
Okay.
And so we would all go to bed, and then I would wait for a little while, and then I would hear Howard Cosell's voice. Man. And then I would hear I think they were trumpets. Of
course. Right.
And then Howard Cosell's voice would come on and be like, the Steelers, and the Cowboys,
that is hilarious.
Face off and the championship match. Like all that, I would get up, I would walk up the stairs really slow. And so if the door opened like this, I would sit right here in the door, and I would look at the television, and I would just be so, it was like I was mesmerized by the television and just the whole football thing. And then the next thing I knew, I would be back in my bed, and it would be the next day.
Wow.
I didn't know how I got there. I didn't find out until after my dad died. My mother told me that I would fall asleep. Like I'd probably fall, because I was a little dude.
Right. I'd
fall asleep by like probably before halftime.
Right.
And my father would get up and go, oh, and he'd pick me up, take me, put me in the bed. Never got mad at me, never said anything the next day. And then I would start trying to find every opportunity to play football. And the older guys, they didn't have footballs for the most part, but everybody would they would like get an old milk carton and put a bunch of rubber bands around the tape and create like a bootleg ball.
Right.
And, man, just go to a vacant lot or a big grass field somewhere, and we would just play kill a man with the ball.
Right.
Just throw it up in the air, and then whoever was able to jump up and catch it, they would just keep running from one end to the other until somebody could either tackle you. If no grass was available, it would be on the concrete, but then we'd just be holes. So you had to hold the guy. And then if you really wanted to test your skills, it would be two-hand touch or one-hand touch. And then boom, that just evolved into now I'm like 10. Okay. My father's passed away. And now it becomes, I don't know if you ever watched Fat Albert back in the day, but there would be scenes in Fat Albert where they were playing football in like the sand lot or the junkyard. Right. And one guy would have a helmet, another guy would have an elbow pad, another guy would have socks, another guy would have that is exactly
oh my God, that's hilarious.
And I remember, man, let me tell you something. And I was trying to explain this to my family the other day, but there was one day, like I used to be into quantum physics and quantum mechanics and stuff like that. Okay. And just even as I would study the scriptures, there would be a time when Christ would be in his solid body, but he could walk on water, or he would be in a solid body and he could walk through a door, but still, or he would be in the midst. He was in the temple one day, and he said something that offended the temple hierarchy. And so they were going to stone him. And so they grabbed him and they were getting ready to go and throw him off the cliff. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden the scripture said he passed right through their midst. Mm-hmm. I say all that to say, man, I think I tapped into that one time and checked this out. So I remember I was 11, and I remember it was, I don't remember, it was like probably the last day of the fall.
Okay.
And I remember it was like a Friday. Everybody came home from school. It was probably 75 degrees outside. Okay. Beautiful day. And everybody's like, hey, we're gonna play football tomorrow. And so they used to call it the top against the bottom because it was the development we lived in was like on a hill, built on a hill.
Okay.
And there's probably about 500, 600 houses or townhomes and apartments and stuff like that.
Right.
And so we're like top against the bottom, top against the bottom. So we're like, cool, everybody will meet out here at certain time in the morning. We're going to go over and we're going to play football, thinking the Fat Albert scene in your head.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I wake, man, I'm so like, as I got older, it became anxiety and kind of like it was like the anticipation of, man, I could get killed or something bad could happen. But back then it was just like all love, like nothing about it was scary. It was just like, oh man, I'm getting ready to play football. I can't wait. Woke up that morning and I remember coming outside.
Okay.
It was a clear blue sky. The sun was shining, but nobody is outside. And I was like, where is that? Like, it literally looked like a ghost town, or probably like the first day after the pandemic when they were like, stay inside the house, you're going to die if you come out.
Right.
And so I'm looking around, nobody's around. So I'm like, okay. I start going to all of the homes of the guys that were my age that were going to play.
Okay.
So I'm knocking on the doors and nobody would open their door. They would just look out. Who is it? Hey, it's Raghib. We're supposed to play football today. So he's not coming outside. And so I go house to house to house to house to house to house. Finally, I remember this little boy, we used to call him White Boy. There was like 2 light-skinned cats that lived in the whole thing. And his name was Kareem. Okay. And I went to his house, knocked on the door, and his sister, it was like, she looked through the thing like, boy, what you doing? And then she opened the door and she starts reprimanding me like, do you know you're not supposed to be outside? It's cold out here. Whatever, something. And she was like telling me off. And I was like, cold? What are you talking about? And it turns out that overnight, this cold front came in and the temperature went from like 75 degrees to like 39 or something crazy, like some drastic, like it was night and day. But the reason why I felt like I transcended my physical matter and the limitations that normally would have affected me was because the love that I had was so great and the excitement that there were no obstacles, even if there were natural barriers that could stop me. And I didn't, and I'm not exaggerating, Chris, and I'm not embellishing at all. I did not feel any of the detrimental elements from the cold weather. I didn't even know it was cold. And I didn't know until Kareem's sister came out the door and was like, yo, what are you, crazy? Nobody's letting their children out here. What, your mother let you outside? Like, she was cussing me like, what are you doing out here? And so that was the point where I realized, like, man, this is gonna be the deal. And check this out. So that's one thing. I remember when I was 7 years old, I'm going back now, sure. And my brother, so far, because we're 11 months apart. So my brother Kadri, he's like 11 months younger than me, but he was like kind of right here height wise. Right. We went to the store to get like my mother a pack of Benson and Hedges menthol cigarettes. And I just remember I was 7. Yeah,
which actually kids could do back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That was $1.25.
Right.
Man, walking in the store door, something made me turn, and it was like all of a sudden he was taller than me.
Really?
Like, he must have hit a growth spurt overnight. Like he's about this much taller than me now, right?
Right.
He's like 6'1". I'm 5'10". Uh-huh. So all of a sudden, I remember looking at him and it was just like, oh man, I was mad that he was taller than me. And I went home like feeling this like, and I don't know how I don't know where it came from. We didn't even have football cards.
Right.
But I got a football card. So my team, and I'm jumping around, but please forgive me. I'm a little. So because of that incident that happened with my sister actually explained the game to me and explained the teams. Mm-hmm. She told me her favorite team was the team in white, the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
So I was like, oh, heck no. She liked the Cowboys. I like the other team. Right. Who's the other team? She's like, well, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm like, I'm down with the Steelers. Go Steelers, right? So every Pittsburgh Steeler was my favorite player.
Oh, my God, that's hilarious.
Until I realized that Terry Bradshaw has the ball all the time, or Franco Harris has the ball all the time. So I was like, well, I'm going to be what Franco Harris is. So I'm going to be a halfback. They used to call him back then halfback. I'm going to be a halfback. And then, so fast forward. So Franco Harris is a big dude.
Right.
Man, I'm coming home. I'm dejected. I don't know where it came from. I found a football card.
Wow.
And on the football card was this guy named Walter Payton. Bruh.
Wow.
I don't know what man. I mean, I would study this stuff. Like, hold that right there. If I would have been a sportscaster when I was like, say from like 7 to about maybe 17 years old.
You knew all the stats. You knew everything.
I knew everything. Bruh, I pulled the card. I turned it over. And on the back of the card, it gave the stats for Walter Payton. I go to his physical stats. And on the height, it said he was 5'10".
Okay.
And something inside of me said, oh, I can be 5'10". It's like, wow. I can get to that height. And it was that's
great.
It lifted off of me. And I felt great. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm sure Walter Payton 5'10". I'm going to be 5'10" when I grow up. Like that kind of came into my mind. And after that, it was a love, a passion, a desire. Like there was nothing that was going to keep me from being able to become what I saw was happening on that television that captured my imagination. Sure. And that led to like, I thought once I'm 5'10", okay, now I'll just play in the pros. I didn't know college. You know, there's a bunch of steps in between. Right. But I'm telling you, whatever was needed for that to be accomplished, Chris, I'm telling you, it was added to me.
That's amazing.
I'm telling you, whatever I needed, it was added to me. I know I'm saying.
No. So this experience happened to you twice.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. So speaking about Notre Dame, first question, when did you get the nickname Rocket? Did you go when you were shorty, or did you get it where like right before you went to high school, or excuse me, right before you went to college, or?
So now I'm on a team. Now I'm playing football. After football season's over, track season starts.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, basketball season starts. After basketball season's over, track season starts. And in northeastern Pennsylvania, it's like Chicago weather, man. The sun or the sun and the warm weather, that's not happening until like the very, very first day of spring. So all of a sudden it's snow everywhere. So we have to practice indoors. And because it's at the beginning of the track workout season, the actual track season wasn't until maybe a month and a half later. We're doing drills in the high school gym. And the first drills we were doing were block drills. He was the coach's name was Jim Cross. We called him Boss for his nickname. Right. And man, he was probably Boss is probably about 5'7", 5'8", built like a fire hydrant, real thick. He was like a fullback in high school, and he was a really good track coach. And he was showing us how to come out the blocks, and he placed a dollar bill on the ground. And if we came out the blocks in our drive phase, low and explosive, and then gradually get up to transition into the next phase of running, we would be able to pick up the dollar and keep going. Everybody did it. There might have been, I don't know, 12 sprinters. And I'm talking about varsity and junior high.
Okay.
And all of the sprinters went, tried to do it, couldn't get it. I get in the blocks. First time in. And he said, he clapped, bam, I came out, swooped that dial up and ran to the other end. And I got to the other end, I turned around, he's like, that's it. And to me, he sounded like the penguin from Batman from back in the day. And so when I got the dial, I came back, that's it. See how he came out the block? He came out the blocks like a rocket. That's what I want. That's kid. What's in there? Come here. So I told him, hey, get back. Do it again. So I was like, all right, cool. So now I could kind of feel like the upperclassmen. I could feel the heat a little bit. It was like they're looking at me like, oh, look at this little cat.
Right.
So I get in the blocks, money down, boom. Did it again. That's it. That's what I want. Everybody do what he did.
Really?
So, bruh, the next day in school, I don't know if you remember, he's in a lot of Adam Sandler movies. Rob Schneider.
Yeah.
He was a cast member on Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
I remember he used to have this skit that he made popular back in the day. What was it called? Copy machine. He said making copies. So somebody would come on, he'd be like, Doug making copies.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
Right. So however he used to mimic the people's names while he was doing that skit, I remember the next day in school, going through the hallways and the guys, the upperclassmen, like, oh, hey, there's Rocket. Hey, look, he comes out the blocks like a rocket. Hey, Rocket, whatever.
Wow.
But now check this out. I had favor. I remember one of the cool upperclassmen, like captain of the football team, real good-looking dude. His name was Darryl Boych. Okay. And when he said it, it was like he was like John Travolta in Grease. Like he was like that kind of character. Like he was the man, right? And so he was like, Rocket, what's good, man? Like he said it with a like.
Wow. It
was an honorable thing to be called Rocket, right? And I'm telling you, from that was seventh grade. I'm 51. From that to this, that name Rocket has stuck.
Wow. That is a great story. Wow. Okay, so now you talked a little bit about kind of your introduction into Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So was that I mean, were you looking at other schools at this point, or I mean, was it just had to be Notre Dame?
Something. This is how it was. I think in 8th grade, my grandmother got she had enough confidence in Mr. Dwyer at that time where she felt like I'd be safe to go sleep over their house. So Brian Dwyer and his dad, check this out. My high school coach is a Notre Dame alum. He was, I think, graduated 68, Michael Gorm. And so he went to, he moved his son down to Wilkes-Barre so he could play for Mickey Gorm. Okay. And also he loved Notre Dame. The only thing I knew about college football that I followed back then was Herschel Walker, Penn State, A little bit about Oklahoma when they were running the wishbone. I liked the red uniforms.
All right.
That was pretty much my extent. I was really a pro football guy.
Okay.
And so anything Steelers, man, I was on top of it. Like I used to want to have arms like Mike Webster, bro. I was so jealous of you when I first saw you. I was like, oh my gosh, how can you get arms like that? I want to diesel this, son.
Wow.
So the first night we go sleep over his house. He lived in a place called Mountaintop, a suburb off of Mountaintop, because Wilkes-Barre is like a valley, then there's surrounding mountains. And so, man, we're playing Spider-Man on, I think it was ColecoVision or one of those deals. And we're playing like in a basement, like in this man cave.
Okay.
And all I know is I fall asleep. And we are knocked out in the basement on the floor. And I just have a dream that I'm smelling like these amazing, I thought it was flowers or something, like this amazing aroma. I'm having this dream. I'm smelling this amazing aroma. The next thing I know is I hear this abrupt voice on the actual, like in my dream, like, and it wakes me up. I'm like, yo, what's going on? And I'm kind of discombobulated. I turn around, and right there in the lazy boy, Mr. Dwyer has his pipe. He has his pipe. He's smoking his pipe. There's a record player right here on his left, and I realized that it's an album that he's playing. And on the album, it was the Notre Dame marching band. And the guy, what broke me up was the announcer on the album was saying something like, the University of Notre Dame proudly presents its marching band. And like, I woke up on that part, and then and then the fight song came on, and he said to me, he had a smile in his eye. He looked like Mr. Magoo. You ever remember that commercial?
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah,
Mr. Magoo had the big glasses, couldn't see nothing.
Right.
But he kind of looked like that, and he said, you hear that, Larry Buck? That's the finest band in the land. Get over here and let me tell you about the Fighting Irish. I'm like, the Fighting Irish? What's going on? He plays the fight song. And I'm like, man, that sounds nothing like Eric B. and Rakim. That is terrible. What is going on here? What kind of household have I done?
Oh my God.
By? And he played that. Then you remember when VHS first came out? Mm-hmm. It was VHS and Beta.
Beta, right.
Man, he had a Beta.
He had a Beta player, Beta.
He had a Beta tape of Wake Up the Echoes.
Oh my God.
Bro, let me tell you something. He took that, I put that tape in, and it was like I was transported back in time. And not only back in time, but the way the tape, like the way I was processing it,
right.
It was like I was watching Lord of the Rings, like The Hobbit.
Right.
Like it felt like some kind of fantastical journey back in time that I was taking. And it was so like mesmerizing. It was just like, whoa, just like the way Newt Rockney was in black and white. And then all of a sudden they were victorious. Then Newt Rockney dies. And then here comes Pasin and all those cats, and like just showing notice. And it just like it captured my imagination. And from that moment on, I'm not exaggerating. Now I'm in 8th grade. So in 8th grade, the only reason my shoulder pads stayed on my shoulders was because of my neck. Bro, I wish I could find the picture of when I was on one knee. All the pads are humongous. Shoulders were hanging down. I had them on as tight as I could, but just like there was nothing for them to connect to. And it was like, and I'm not exaggerating, Chris. He was like, you're going to go there one day. No, and he started, and this is why I know it is so important, especially in those first 7-8 years, like when I said stuff was added to me and things, whatever I needed to accomplish this mission was just like put in my midst. And it was like, he started speaking stuff like, you're going to go there one day. He's like, you're going to be legendary one day. He said, you're going to be, just when they say, anybody says rock, they're going to say who? Rock me or rocket. Like, it was like, he would say stuff like that. And so I was like, okay. And it was just like, there was nothing that made me at that point aware of my own deficiencies, like my own size, right, or my own lack of having the academic foundation. Like when my father died, if my father was alive, I would be so much smarter than I know. Like, because he was so disciplined, and he was like, he was very intelligent, like with the books and all that stuff, just everything stuff he did. But when that left, it was kind of like I looked at studying, reading. I looked at it as a burden. I was like, man, this isn't fun. You don't like when you're younger, you don't know there's certain things that you might not be in love with, but once you train yourself how to do them, they'll be beneficial for you down the road. Right. So it was like, in spite of all of those things and being obstacles or challenges, it was like, man, he just start speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking. And then before you knew it, it was like, fast forward to my, let me see, so freshman year. So now in my mind, Notre Dame is the only, I realized, okay, you got to go high school and then you have to go college. Then you can be in the pro. Right. I was like, okay, cool. I want to do this Notre Dame thing. And I didn't, so I started watching Notre Dame.
Okay.
Bro, I remember the first game I watched a game, maybe it's my sophomore, junior year. And I remember seeing, stop there. So I sleep over his house. He tells me that, and I'm trying to keep everything in chronological order. So all of a sudden, we as seventh really started seventh grade, but 7th, 8th, 9th grade, we were like the mascots for the varsity. And we were the janitors also. So we had to like clean up the locker rooms. We had in the summertime, they would have us come down and we would have to organize all the pads. We'd have to take the shoelaces out that were broken, put new shoelaces in. We had to make sure all the shoes matched. We would take this white shoe polish with kiwi. I don't know if they kiwi. No matter what the shoe color was, all the shoes had to be kiwied over. We would organize all of the pads that you hit and all that stuff. We would like organize all that stuff, had to vacuum everything. And we had to keep the locker room immaculate. And his dad was a volunteer on the coaching staff. So whenever he had a break, he would come into wherever we were in the locker room. He would sit on a stool, light his pipe up. That thing smelled good. I don't know if a pipe is good for you or not, but it smelled good. And he would start telling us stories about like legendary Notre Dame guys. And he would tell us the stories, and I'm telling you, it would be like I would transport back into that time, and it would feel like going back into like this fantasy world. Right. And it was just like, and then always in it, you're gonna go there one day, you're gonna be amazing, you're gonna do this, da. And it just kept happening. And so I remember right before my junior year, I think it was my junior year for my senior year. It was either my junior or senior year. This is a real funny story though. And well, it's funny to me because how it's like how there wasn't any arrogance or any mean-spiritedness in it. But it's kind of like a child, when a child is aware of a gift that they have. Sure, then they're telling you, and they're coming saying, hey, I'm the best. I'm the best gymnast. I can jump rope better than everybody.
Right.
They're not saying it to you. They're just like, it's just a fact. There's nothing about them that like, hey, be humble, kid.
Very innocent,
or whatever. So I'm watching a game and I was checking out. I remember 2 games specifically. I remember it was a game in AJ was the tailback. And I remember looking at him. They were like, number 22, Anthony Johnson.
Right. I think you froze on me, Rocket. Hey, Rocket.
I don't. Oh.
Okay. Yep. We're back now.
So AJ is tailback. Anthony Johnson. I'm sorry.
Right.
Man, we were teammates at Indy and at Carolina. Bruh, they started handing him the ball. And I was like, what the heck? I was like, oh, heck yeah. Now I know why he said I can go to Notre Dame. I'm going to be the man because I'm so much faster than this guy. He is like, I can't believe he's a starter. Like, it was crazy.
Oh, my God.
And so, like, it was, and when I look back on it, I was like, wow, bruh. There's a grace that God gives you when you don't know what you don't know.
Sure.
I remember the next game I saw was the game when Tim Brown took 2 back to the house against Michigan State.
Okay. And
I was like, yo. And it was my junior year. I remember I was like, man, next time I get some returns, I'm gonna do that. And next year in high school, I almost did it. The second one I fumbled because I ate tater tots for breakfast instead of like a breakfast that fortified me. So it's like I have no energy left in my body. I was like, oh my God. After that, the coaches made sure I had all kinds of fortification and nutrients.
Oh my God. So
the next game after the Tim Brown game was my senior year, and it was the Michigan game. And I remember Rick Waters was this freshman sensation out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania,
right?
Number 12. And he looked to me when I watched him, kind of looked like a skinny Eric Dickerson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, snap. I was like, okay, this cat is all right. And I wasn't as cocky this time. I was like, okay, he's kind of all right. And I remember he scored like the first time he touched the ball and everything. I was like, oh, man, this is
wow.
Amazing. So it was like, I was like, okay, the first time I touched the ball and going for the upcoming season, I got to score a touchdown. Like I was like going back and forth like that. Watch this, bruh. So now I'm the man. I'm a senior. Like my coaches and the school, especially once they found out there was no way I wasn't going to go to Notre Dame. I wasn't, even when Joe Paterno and all those cats came to school, all of the teachers that specialized in English, Mrs. Elias was the English teacher.
Right.
Mr. Smith was the math expert. Mrs. Latinsky was the reading expert. So all of it was like all of them had the expertise to help me to get the I think it was 750 or something, whatever the score was that you needed. Right. Mm-hmm. All of them together helped me. And the strategy was, first time you take the test, you're going to just focus on the English and reading part. Second time you take the test, you're going to math. And then, so you don't have to stress yourself out. Right. And they all, I don't know if it hopefully it's not illegal, but however they pay for it, whatever. Right. I don't want to get in trouble, but I want to get the school in trouble. But they all helped, pitched in, went, took the test, took it twice, was able to get enough scores so I could qualify. And but it was just like people like that were added to my life. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. It was a community effort. It was like, and so I remember it was like the first time in my life I had like self-doubt. So we're at the state track meet and it's in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. We won the state track meet the year before.
Okay.
So now we're returning, and it was, my brother won all the events he was in. Right, all I had to do was win like one or two. So man, that was it. And then, like my brother still has state. I think he still has state records like right to now. Wow. Something crazy. So it's after the meet. Okay. And let me get some water. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's after the meet. And we are in the bottom of the stadium. It was a nice facility, but it's like a Division 1 AA, maybe Division 2 facility. Okay. And we're underneath the stadium. And, I just won. I avenged my loss in 100 to this guy named Bob Samuels. Like I beat him so bad they thought I was on steroids. It was crazy. Wow. And now check this out. Check this out. Talking about how the community helped me. Right. So my junior year, I was winning the 100 by like up for 70 meters. All of a sudden, Bob Samuels is about 6'3". He was a skinny dude, so he's probably about 6'3", 210, 212. Okay. Man, he hawked me down. And it was crazy because it was the first time I had ever been a part of a race where you hear the dreaded ooh. And whenever you hear that, that means somebody is coming up strong from the back and they're about to pass the guy who's in the lead. I'm like in the lead and they're like, woo. I'm like, why are they saying woo? All of a sudden, no, I see a hand like out of my peripheral vision. I was so stunned. I turned, man, this cat caught me. I turned, I started stumbling. He passed me with ease. Boom. I came in second. I was like, oh my gosh. What just happened? I lost. After that race, the reason why I lost, because I was starting to learn life lessons. Because up until that point, athletically, everything was
easy for you.
Easy.
Sure.
It was like, and not only was it easy, my level of talent was so high that the coaches were telling me, hey, if you want to get stronger, what you're going to have to do, because when you go to the state meets and even the district meets, you have multiple events that you're doing in one day. And then you have to get up the next day and do them all over again. You need to get stronger. But for me, the way they wanted me to get stronger was running 400 meters. Now, this is where coaching comes in, bruh. The first time I ever ran 400 meters was in 8th grade. And I just remember I never lost a race, never had any. I tied races, but didn't lose any. Right. The coach comes out and says, okay, everybody, we're going to run 400 meters today. And so I'm like, I'm the man. Whatever we run, I'm going to win. He's like, so 400 meters. I said, what's that? He said, that's just one time around the track. So I was like, okay. So I said, is there a way to run it? He's like, yeah, just run full speed. Bruh, I ran full speed around that track. And at precisely 205 meters,
no way,
a weird thing started happening. I went deaf externally. Right. Internally, I could hear myself breathing. I could hear my heart just boom, 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 boom. I could hear my heart going. And then I felt like every time I took a breath, it was burning in my lungs. And I felt like my legs by themselves and my butt, like I don't even have a butt. I felt like I had a butt from the dynamics of running that doggone fast for that long. And all of a sudden, it was like the energy to run fast anymore. All of that was taken from me. And it was like, it felt like somebody was squeezing my body and I was like struggling to run. Oh and the only thing that kept me from collapsing, I could hear Dev Idgunji behind me gaining ground. And
wow.
I went deaf and then I went internal for about 5 to 10 meters. And then I went external again, and I could hear, and I could hear the coach, 49, 40, 50, 50, counting out loud. And it was like, I knew that Dev was coming up on me. And I was like, ain't no way I'm losing. Like that, the pain of losing or thinking I was going to lose.
Crazy.
Check it out. We end up crossing the finish line tied. My body, like, I felt like I was going to throw up, but there was nothing in my stomach that I could throw up.
Okay.
My lungs were burning. I never felt my muscles, my butt, my legs, my hamstring, my feet, my shoulder, everything was burning. I never felt that feeling before. And it was such a pain, Chris. I'm not exaggerating. I had to go lay in the pole vault mats and I couldn't move. I think I stayed in the mats for like 2 hours. Like I couldn't. Obviously I didn't know all this at the time, but I was like, right. Every electrolyte in my body, all the blood sugar that was necessary to get into your muscles, all that was gone. All the fat, everything at one time, the ketosis, all that gone. And that memory marked me. And we fast forward and we get to, hey, you got to get strong by running the 400. I'm like, oh no, I'll be weak for the rest of my life. I'm never running that again. That is not an option. So what happened was at my junior year when the cat hawked me down,
right,
and I ended up coming in second, it was so humiliating and just devastating to me that I was like, you know what? Hey, if I got to run the 400, I got to run the 400. But thank God, an alumni from the school who was a chiropractor, his name was Malcolm Conway. He had been studying. He was like, look, if you guys, if you don't want to lose again, he said, all you need is 2 nights a week, and we'll do a weight program with you so you can do your track program during the day. We'll do the weight. I didn't walk a basketball my senior year, 2 nights a week. And all of a sudden we were accomplishing the same thing. We were getting stronger with all these different weight programs. And it was like more running stuff, not like we're getting big, bulky Mike Webster.
Right, right.
But it was like everything was, here comes another member of the community, and they had a solution for whatever I needed to overcome whatever I faced in that moment. And I had to have the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to run the 400. So I got on the 4x4, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, and now I'm getting back to my story. That was hilarious. We're back at the state championship.
Right.
I beat the dude so bad they thought I was on steroids. The doggone meet is over. I'm underneath the stadium and I'm holding court with all of the guys. Like, I'm the man. And you know, you have your little track singlet thing on.
Right, right.
So I thought I had muscles, bruh, because I was just like, I was about track season. I probably got about 160 pounds.
Oh
I was like, I weighed as much as one of your butt cheeks. That junk. My dog. I was the man. I'm talking like, yeah. And I had already I don't know. Yeah, I'd already committed to Notre Dame, so whatever. And so I'm holding court and I'm talking to all the guys, and they're like, I can tell they're admiring, like, yo, that's Rocky, Ismail, son, whatever. Man, all of a sudden, I'm talking to them, and I could tell that their eyes, they were looking at me, but then they were like looking behind me.
Okay.
They were looking behind me, and I was like, what's everybody looking at? Bruh, I turn around in living color. I thought was Black Jesus in the flesh standing behind me.
Right.
It was none other than the Adonis himself, Rick the Ruler, Ricky Waters, standing behind me.
What?
All of the dudes was just like they were looking at me, then they were like they looked at him, they were like, you gotta remember, we're in more like, I forget, Shippensburg is kind of, I don't know if it's central or south central, wherever it is, but it's closer to Harrisburg. So Rick is like a football god. He went to Bishop McDevitt, like the whole thing, and plus he went to Notre Dame.
Right.
I turned around, Rick's shoulder, like one shoulder was the size of one of my butt cheeks.
Oh
his
my God.
His chest was, his muscles were like baby Mike Webster. It was so, I looked at him, and in my mind, I was like, man, he's a tailback. And I looked at me. In my mind, the music that happens when the video game character is killed. It was like, doo. I felt so little and insignificant. And,
oh my God.
And top it all off, he was like, "What's up, little man?"
Oh, of course. He
said, "What's up, little man?"
Great story.
I'm a little man.
Oh my God.
It was like, and so that was like for about 5 seconds. But then he started like, "Yo, we're gonna do it when you come to school next year." And so he built me back up.
Right. That is hilarious.
It was, bruh. That was one of the most like I said, when you don't know what you don't know, man. I thought other team hype, man, I didn't know bigness, and it was like all of the things that I believed about myself, like I could do it and all that. It was like, here comes another challenge, and it's like, do you still believe regardless of what you see, regardless of what it sounds like, regardless of what everybody else may be saying or even thinking about, you still believe? It was like, that was one of the first challenges on that level that I was like, whoa, this is going to be a whole nother monster. So anyway, all that to say, from the community helping, whether it's academics, athletics, it was like, again, everything I needed was added to me, and it allowed me to be blessed enough to be able to actually get to Notre Dame for the next step to accomplish the goal that I had from when I was 5 years old.
Right. Okay, so we have a question.
Okay.
Let me see if you can see it. This is from Andrew. It is kind of on the same lines we were talking about. But, what made Notre Dame stand out to you when you were looking at schools? Now, was it the coach? Was it, the old man in the locker room? Like, what was it?
Bruh. Oh, okay. When you were looking at, so if he's saying what made him stand out when I was looking at other schools,
right,
bruh, when I saw Wake Up the Echoes in 8th grade, like, that was it. That was man. I was like, man, I'm going to be a hobbit. I'm going to meet Mordor. Like, I'm going to be able to go to Middle Earth and be like legendary. I'm telling you, from that moment and Mr. Dwyer just kept, hey, you're going to be this, do that. You're going to be, and then everybody in the community, man, getting behind me, bruh. There was somebody made a billboard for me that was from the local thing, my junior year, for Heisman. I was like, what? Like, I mean, people were on a high level, man, and from the local knew everything. So there was nothing Notre Dame. Man, Notre Dame just had to be Notre Dame, right? And so just the fact that, man, this is all becoming a reality. That's it. Now, I will tell you this. Once I got to school, one thing I loved about Notre Dame was whenever we would road trip to other schools, like we would go down to like IU, Purdue,
right,
Tennessee State. I remember we went to, where else did we go? Let's see, mostly just stuff where you can drive. Chicago, Detroit. Notre Dame's campus compared to any camp, even if other nice campuses, our campus was immaculate, man. Like I used to feel like, bruh, and I don't know if I might have been a little arrogant, but it was like I would kind of like be kind of snooty when I get on other campuses and I hold my nose like, oh man, I look at that. Look, they got walk marks in the grass. They got trails in the grass. They got faded concrete over. Like Notre Dame stood out that way. It was an amazing, immaculate campus, and it still is to this day.
So, kind of talking about Notre Dame. So, kind of share with us what your favorite non-athletic experience was at Notre Dame.
Non-athletic. Well, I think I want to say, well, I remember one day before practice getting a call from one of my little brothers on campus, and we were all in my room in Grace Hall, and I remember we got a call, and like I put it on a speakerphone, and I was like, yo, and we didn't have call ID and all that stuff, so I was like, hello, and on the other end I hear somebody like crying and talking, and he was like, I think he said my father died or something like that. And I was like, oh, and who the young man who it was, he lived by the circle. What was the door? Is that alumni? Wait, what's the door by the circle?
I think it is alumni, yeah. I think.
Right. So he either lived in alumni or the dorm next to it. I was in the Grace Hall.
Right.
And so I just remember, like I said, I'm on my way, hung up the phone, and a shot of adrenaline hit my body. And I just ran, running. And I ran from our dorm all the way across campus to alumni, get in the room, and he is just a wreck because he just got the news about the death of his parent.
Right.
And bruh, I was oblivious to practice or whatever. Right. And we didn't have cell phones like that. Right. And matter of fact, after I was consoling him, I went in the other room and I called my mother, and I started getting emotional, and she had to calm me down. I went back into his room, and then we had, long story short, had to took him to the airport. And they if somebody passed away, you have proof, they'll like get you. So he flew back to Detroit.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it's night.
You're like, whoa, wait a minute.
I'm like, oh, I gotta go to practice.
Oh my gosh.
Bruh. I thought I was in trouble, man. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Coach Holtz, I walked into the practice in Loftus.
Right.
I walked into Loftus. I want to say we were getting ready to play Michigan State, maybe. I don't know. I walk into practice, and they were like, oh, where were you? Oh, my God, we're looking for you. Are you okay? What's wrong? Like, whatever. And Coach Holtz comes up on his golf cart.
Yep.
And it was like he wanted to be the discipline and everything at the same time. But this one I know, I was like, Coach Holtz has a heart. And he was trying to be all tough, but then I think I might have started tearing up a little bit. And so he's like, hey, oh, wait a minute. And then I told him what happened.
Right.
And it was like I could feel the authority. I could feel the authority and the discipline, and remember he was real little and skinny, but like he would
absolutely
terrify that dude.
Right.
But it was like all of that went away, and I could feel him like yo, I'm proud of you, man. I'm sorry, your friend. What can we do? He like flipped it, and that's probably, I would say, like I guess football's involved a little bit, but
No. I mean, that's actually perfect. It's interesting because, I mean, obviously there's so many football tales, but knowing that you were there for one of your kind of non-athletic friends was, I mean, that's amazing. This is Chris Zorich. Being part of some very successful teams, what I valued most was the collaboration and the chance to work toward common goals. Komar, derived from the Gaelic word meaning collaboration. Komar Partners is a recognized leader in retained executive search, professional recruiting, and talent advisory services. We are trusted advisors to our clients. We view our work on behalf of our clients as mission critical, and with the knowledge that a great resulting hire will have a direct effect on our clients' businesses. It's time to collaborate, cultivate, and connect. Why choose Komar Partners? The difference is clear. We lean in and have a tenacious approach to our work through innovation, knowledge management, process execution, and an industry-leading team of professionals. As part of every search, we provide a compensation analysis, a third-party executive assessment, and one-on-one onboarding and acculturation coaching. So here's another question that I have, and it's really kind of I mean, it impressed me that you're able to do this, but the question is, what were you thinking, or at least walk us through it, when you're in Michigan, 1989?
Okay.
You've already returned one kickoff for a touchdown. So Bo Schembechler decides to kick it to you again. Mm-hmm. Like at that point, what are you, and this is 89, so you actually, after you ran the second one back, you actually were on the cover of Sports Illustrated after this. But talk to me about what you were thinking, or talk to us about what you were thinking. Like, okay, I already scored one on them. Are they going to kick it over to the, they're going to pooch it? They're going to, do it over to the side? But they actually kicked it to you, and you actually returned it. So kind of walk us through that again.
So before I go there, to give context.
Absolutely.
Remember, so I know I felt like being a part of the Notre Dame special teams, I feel like the returners had a grace to be a part of it. And the reason I say that is because there was always, like I told you, from Tim Brown, the first time I had exposure to seeing that. I mean, remember, right. Rick would take punts to the house. Right. Rick was a doggone tailback, a giant dude. He'd take, you know what I'm saying? So it was like there was a grace. And how I know there was a grace is because I remember my freshman year, the first practice that we had at the stadium. Okay. And there were no students on campus yet. And I remember it was an overcast. I guess it wasn't quite fall yet. It was still summer, getting ready to be fall. And I remember we were getting ready to do kickoff returns. Okay. And I remember, now watch this. I heard that it wasn't a live drill. Like in my ears, I heard that it wasn't live. Right. To this day, you can't convince me otherwise. And we were going against the first team kickoff team. Right. So they put me back there, and I'm telling you, I get the ball, and I felt like it was like, even though we had full pads on, I felt like it was almost a glorified walkthrough. Okay. So I get the ball, and I remember just going through the motions. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's how it's supposed to go because, this is no contact. We're just making sure we understand where everybody. Right. Before you know it, I'm in the end zone, and I turn around, and everybody's like, yeah, and they ran, and they started like, and Coach Stewart. Remember him?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He's like, that's what we're talking about, Rock. Take it to the house. Everybody was like, oh. And they were like, yo, they're looking at me like, yo. And so it turns out that what I thought was not a contact drill was all the way live. Like it was live bullet, son. It was the real deal. But in my mind, I'm telling you, remember I told you about that being able to what's the word? I forget overcome the natural environment, and like you tap into a greater level. It's like you bring the supernatural to the natural, and you're operating in the supernatural, but you're still functioning in the natural. Right. Man, I was like, why is everybody making a big deal? They're like, man, bro, they're going to be the ones that's going down against Michigan up there. That was a big deal. Like, and we were freshmen, and I still felt crazy because I had those big, them braces we had on the sidewalk. I was dressed garbage. My shoes were, blistered. Like I was just crazy. Had all kind of looked terrible. But okay, so now I was like, I didn't process it or understand it the way I do now. Okay. But I was just like, oh man, whatever. So now later on that year, we get the Rice game, and it was at the stadium, and it was right before Thanksgiving break. Okay. So I remember we get the first kick, and it was like that same kind of grace. It was like, if you look at it, I didn't make any really devastating moves. It wasn't like I was running really hard. It didn't feel like that, but it was just like, man, guys they were just falling off, like, and bam, we took it to the house. So we get to the I don't know if it was halftime where they scored a field goal. I don't know what happened. Okay. But Coach Holtz was like, hey, I mean, he guys are, hey, come here, middle. He looked at me, and I'm a freshman, like, hey, what return do you like? I was like, and I always like middle return because I was a tailback in high school. And so my favorite play was an off tackle play. And it was because my boy Brian Dwyer was the offside guard. Charlie Fick blocked down. Brian Dwyer came, he pulled, and he came and kicked out the end or the tackle. Right. And my brother was the fullback, and he would get the linebacker, and then I would come through the hole, hit, and then take off outside. So on the kickoff return, I like middle return coach. He was like, nobody, they're going to script. If they script the ball, get it to Rocket. Get the ball, do not touch the ball. Get the ball to Rocket. Like, and I didn't realize until I was coaching that there's sometimes when I would coach and I could feel that a certain player was tapped in. And no matter what he's going to, so Coach Holtz was like in that mode. Right. So remember, they squibbed it, and unless somebody in the front line had hit them and they fell on it, if that ball went past the front line, I was getting the ball. Okay. So that context, now take that over to Michigan. Right. I think it was I think it was the first half. Was it the first? Okay. I think it was the first half. So they scored, and then we hit them, bam, which is regular. Like now in our mind, this is a regular part of whatever. So this is just what we do. So now, boom, hit that back on the right. I remember running. I remember Rodney Cover being back there. And I remember Corwin was chasing me from Michigan, and I was just kind of like this, and Rodney was like, yeah, like on the field, get to the end zone, and I think maybe halftime or something comes. Now you got to remember, in that game, a part of me, before we how we used to come in and people be on the right and left as we're going into the locker room or any of those things, and my coach from my 7th grade year, Coach Breeze. Okay. He was in the line. I was like, oh, and like it made me feel amazing. And then my uncle was there who lived in Detroit. I was like, oh, snap, my uncle is here, Coach Breeze. And it's like I wanted to like, have a good game. Just like,
sure, absolutely.
You know, like I remember one time when I was a boy, and I might have been 4. Maybe I was 5. Maybe I was 4. And I remember all of us, we were kind of doing relay races in the back court. And I remember we were just like, we were running up to one porch and then run back to the other one. Everybody run. And we're doing that. And I remember on the way back, I saw my dad like looking out the door, and something in me like, ooh, it made me like, I don't know, gave it a little more energy, man. Maybe want to run a little faster. Like it was kind of like that same feeling when I saw my coaches and my uncle. And so now we're at halftime. And so the drill is the same as like, was Coach Stu still there then?
Yeah, he was.
Okay. So he was like, hey, he gave it the take it to the eye. You know, he talked all cool. He talked like a football shaft or something. Right. He talked all, you know what I'm saying? So he's like, everybody gonna take it to the house, whatever. And the same, like, there was an expectation that there was going to be like a squib or something like that.
Right.
And so the rules were the same. Hey, let Raghib, you get the ball, pitch it back to him. And so when they kicked it in the air, like nothing, there's no like, oh man, they're doing this again or whatever. Nothing of that. It was just like, okay, middle return. Man, get that mug. Wow. And I will say, remember sophomore year, Coach Schmidt came for the Jerry.
Yeah.
Strength and conditioning.
Jerry Schmidt. Yep.
Bruh, I don't know if you realize this, but that may be the only college game in the beginning where I realized how important strength and conditioning was. And if you look on one of the angles, my glutes and my hamstrings were on swole.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm coming through the whole bam, get hit, nothing. Hit that sideline to the left, and then had the covert escort again. Boom. To the house, bro. So the understand or the processing of it, they're gonna kick it to it. The only thing that was understood from an instruction standpoint was, if it is squib, so what? Just pitch it back to Rock whenever if it happens. But it didn't happen. So that thing was in the air, and then I don't think I realized, and did you think, remember on when we came to the big house, did you think it was going to be louder?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that kind of shocked me. I mean, when you returned to, you know, it was quiet.
That's what I thought. I was like, man, this is the big house. I thought it was going to be like Rock is going crazy. That mug was like, just like serene and peaceful and like, what the heck? But anyway, that was all that was going through my mind on that.
Well, I mean, you obviously were the reason why it was that quiet. So I mean, that's one thing. So another kind of iconic situation I wanted to ask you about was, so now it's your junior year, and we're actually playing against University of Colorado. We're in the Orange Bowl. We're down by 1 point, and I'm huffing and puffing. I actually don't see this, but I've seen video of it.
Okay.
And can you kind of walk us through this? Because this is kind of like an amazing, which I didn't know until I saw the video.
Okay.
You actually said, you know, hey, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and take it. This is amazing. This is an amazing story.
Well, okay, so it's the second time we're playing them. So now it's a defense, man. Essentially, you guys were the stars of that game because it was a defensive back and forth. Nobody was doing nothing. It's 10-9. It's like 1 minute and 6 seconds left on the clock. And I remember they put the punt team out. And I remember my first thought was, they're probably not going to punt it to us. And the only reason I was thinking that was because I was like, well, we're pretty good. Like it, and it wasn't an arrogant thing. It was just a matter of fact. That was all. It was just more of a matter of fact.
Exactly.
The thing that I thought was going to happen was, I don't know if you remember, but their punter, his name was Tom Ruin. And my sophomore year, he was the number one punter in the country.
Right.
So and then this year, my junior year, I think his stats weren't quite what they were the year before. So in my mind, I was like, well, maybe he's going to show off his leg just to let the guys know that he still got it. And he might kick a deep one. If he punted out of bounds or punt it out of the end zone, like in my mind, I didn't even feel like the ball was going to come where we could actually field it.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I hear that whistle that only Coach Holtz's players and well-trained dogs can hear. And I hear that bad boy, and I was like, huh? I looked to the sideline, and Coach Holtz was like, right there, middle return. And he was giving a sign for middle. He was going down his shirt like this, middle return, don't fair catch the ball, don't fair catch the ball. And I looked at him, and he, like, I think he understood the gravity of the moment, because it was like his energy was really up.
Okay.
So, and my attempt was to calm him down and say, hey, coach, it's okay. Wow. So I turned to him and to acknowledge that I understood everything he was saying. I wasn't going to fair catch the ball. I wasn't going to do any return but middle return, and calm down. We got this. I gave him a thumbs up. So I just give him a thumbs up. I look at the sideline. I give him a thumbs up in that spirit.
Okay.
So I turn back. Now, Chris, let me tell you, bruh, all of a sudden, my mind is still in okay, I know what Coach Holtz is saying. They're not going to kick it to us. They take a penalty. Matter of fact, when they take the penalty, that's when Coach Holtz goes through all of the don't fair catch the ball, because my initial instruction, this is it. My initial instruction, if the ball goes past the 10-yard line, let it go.
Okay.
Because so I put my heels on the 10.
Right.
The ball goes over my head. Fair catch, run away, let the ball go. All of a sudden, the doggone ball is in the air. And it was like, I remember Coach Holtz used to tell the quarterbacks all the time, like, don't try to aim at whatever you're throwing at, whatever your target, whether it's a receiver or a tailback. He said your brain already knows where everything is, and you practice enough, so just release the ball and it'll go where it's supposed to go. So like, he was telling them, like, there's an automatic mechanism inside of you that's going to kick in. Okay. Well, I remember looking up, and all of a sudden I knew, even though I had to back up a little, I knew the ball wasn't going to go over my head. Right. So it was like the thought that they're not going to kick it to us. Like it immediately left my brain. And then from my heart, I'm telling you, this is what I heard. Don't go down. No matter what, don't go down. I'm not lying. I'm not embellishing. There's nothing about this that is being made up. All of a sudden, it was like the ball comes down, and I look, and it's like middle return, and it is crowded in the middle. And so I was like, okay, middle return. And the thought kept emanating out, don't go down. Boom. No matter what, don't go down. Boom. I got hit again. Don't go down. Boom. And then after that last hit, I saw to the right, it was like a lane just opened up. And it was like I stepped on the gas. And I remember I saw Rod Smith somewhere on the left, like kind of like how Rodney Culver did on kickoff returns. Rod Smith was right there. Okay. I remember just running. Now, like playing it back, one of the things that I learned later on in my life is that your eyes see more than you realize.
Okay.
You're only focused on a certain point, but your eyes are seeing everything around. Matter of fact, I remember they were doing an expose on what made Magic Johnson so amazing as a point guard, how he can look over here and do something and throw something.
Right.
Guy coming over, and so that's when they explained that. And they were like, every human can do it. And they were saying women have a wider peripheral vision than men. It's like every human being can do it. We just don't develop it.
Right.
But I remember running for daylight, essentially running. I saw the lane open to the right. And then I saw, it was like all of the fans were standing up and they were behind the Colorado stands. And I just remember I could see, I'm looking this way, but I see them sitting down. And I remember running to I don't know if it was the student section or the band, but everybody was standing up. And I just remember okay. And I remember I could hear Rodney taunting the guy, whoever was chasing me, it's too late now, you never get it. And I remember got into the end zone, dropped the ball. It was mission accomplished. And then I remember Rodney jumped on me. I remember Rick Waters ran from the bench all the way to the end.
Oh my God.
Jumped on me yes, I love you. Yeah. And then I was at the bottom of the pile, and I just remember it sounded like this to me. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a flag on the play. There is a flag on the play.
Oh my gosh.
Bro, I remember Rick got up. It was in slow motion. He turned around. He looked downfield. He saw the flag. He was like, no.
Oh my God.
And then it was I remember I got up and I looked downfield. You could see the flag on the horizon in the field.
Right.
It was immediately thoughts of defeat came. And the first thought was, they're not going to kick it to us again. So in my mind, what was a strength for us, they weren't going to allow us to get into that area anymore. They were like, nope, You're not going to be able to kick it to us. And then the second thought was, man, we're kind of a 3 yards. And even though Rick Meyer was the quarterback,
right,
he was still 3 yards in a cloud of dust type setup.
Right.
And then the other thought was, I'm tired. I realized I was tired. It was that heavy Miami air, and it was just all defeated, all thoughts of defeat. And it was as the more the thoughts of defeat came, my body language, I could feel I became heavy to myself. Instead of feeling okay, I'm strong, I can overcome this, I got what it takes. Even if if I say I don't know how, all of the thoughts brought me down. And I remember, and I was reflecting on, I was man, again, this is, I'm an old man when I'm thinking of the way I'm thinking now. Right. I was man, all those thoughts of defeat, what could have, if whenever you're in a dark place, you got to hold on to a pinpoint of light or something that's positive, and you just kind of just keep. One of the things that I learned scripturally was most leaders in the Bible, they are in a point where they have to learn how to encourage themselves, and not just encourage themselves according to their own strength, but they encourage themselves according to the strength that the Most High God has, their Creator has. And so I didn't know that at the time, but it's now I realized, and I thought about it, I was man, but what usually happens to people is the truth of the circumstances negates their ability to tap into the whole truth that is available to them. And so for me, one of the things that I realized was the Stanford game. I think it was early that year. We and this is why hats off to college coaches who can have teams that just can keep their guys consistently in a place where they're going to win. Because most of the times, if on paper you're better than another team, and sometimes you fall into that, oh yeah, we're better than this team. Okay, they're hanging around. Okay, yeah, we can turn it on. We can eventually beat them. And then before you know it, it's like your chance, the doggone clock is 26 seconds left. You're like, wait
exactly. Right,
so,
exactly.
The thing that I know I could have held on to, because when you tell people who've never experienced this, they need proof. Right. Well, the proof would have been for me was, and when I thought about this, I remembered that Stanford game, and I remember I got hurt that game. And I remember I had to be on a sideline, and I remember Sean Davis, rest in peace. Sean Davis had a big game, man, big catches, and we were driving. And I remember we got to, I don't know, the 10-yard line, and it was like seconds left on the clock or something like that. I might not be specific on that, but it was some kind of scenario like that.
Right.
I remember Coach Holtz called a timeout, and he brought us all to the sideline. Well, they brought us. I'm standing there watching. Bruh, he drew up a play in the dirt. And all he said was, all right, this is the formation. He said, this is the protection. He said, Derek, I want you to down block or do something 1,001, 1,002. Rick, you and whatever, play fake, and you're going to block the ends coming this way. Rick, you're going to roll out this way, come back. He said, Derek, you're going to be wide open in the – so it's like when you're facing touchdown Jesus,
right?
If you're facing the left corner of the end zone, he told Derek Brown he's going to be wide open. Bruh.
Drew it up on the grass.
Perfection. All of a sudden, the whole play, the only thing that happened was human error. And one of the running backs didn't get enough of a solid block on the end that was rushing. Okay. And so Rick couldn't step into the pass. He had to throw it off his back foot. And it like Derek was running the opposite way of the ball, and his momentum took him, and the ball missed his hand by like that much. He was like, but the reason that play came to mind was to remind me that even when I was in that dark place and I was everything that I could see as a solution was negative,
right?
We still had the capacity based on our coach to be able to come through. But it was like, I felt like also, and this is sometimes the danger of having that one superstar guy or that guy that when everybody doesn't realize when that guy is is down and you're in the heat of the battle, it's like everybody's, we'll just give it to, he's not.
Right.
And it's like it brings them down too. Right. So like, all those things happen in that play. And it's like, I didn't, I think I was 20, maybe I might have been 21. I might have been 21. It's like at that developmental stage, I wish I would have had the capacity to be like, to tap into the part of me that was like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, they're probably not going through. All right, well, we'll figure something out. Like, even if I would have been like, I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll figure something out. Right. Like that would have been enough energy to give a release to that, whatever it was, the remedy, the solution, the answer that is necessary to be able to manifest.
Right. Right. Now, after that, you make a very incredible decision, and you do something that hasn't been done in Notre Dame in a very long time. If not even that, you leave early. And I know that there's kind of a history about that, but we don't necessarily have to talk about that. But you do something that is amazing. You choose to go to the CFL and forego like an opportunity in the NFL. Can you kind of share that with us a little bit?
Check this out. So after I made a decision to go to turn pro, I remember the thing that it was like the 5 teams that were in position to potentially have the first pick of the draft,
right?
They started calling.
Okay.
And they didn't want to happen what happened with John Elway when he was coming out of Stanford. Okay. He didn't want to go to the Baltimore Colts.
Right.
So he was like, you know what? I'm just going to play baseball. And they drafted him, but he signed with, I think, the Yankees and Steinbrenner's organization. So they didn't want that to happen again. So they had a rule in the NFL where anybody who was going to be a first pick in the draft or even had the potential to be the first pick, they had to sign a contract prior to the draft or they wouldn't be drafted. And so all of the teams, I think it was the Patriots, the Cowboys, the Browns, and I forget the other 2 teams, but all of the teams start negotiating. And I'm literally in Grace Hall, bruh, going to class, and these mugs I'm getting calls, and my agent sat down and was like, all right, well, we just talked to what's his name, and they all of them offered, everybody they talked to offered $1.5 million for 5 years. And the signing bonus was $400,000. And then the other 1.5 would be dispersed over the 5-year cycle. So in my mind, I was like, well, 1.5 and I'll be the first pick of the draft. I was like, but usually if a team wants you more than another team, they'll offer more and whatever. But it's like, if you're locked in, but it's like they didn't know who was going to have the first pick from my estimation because the season hadn't been over yet. They didn't know who. Somebody could have gone on a 2 or 3 game win streak or whatever. And so that was the case. So that's on the table. I think 2 days later, it was John Edwards or maybe Ralph Wiley, rest in peace to Ralph Wiley. They called the room and they were saying, hey, it was John Edwards. He's like, hey, because he was out of a law firm in San Francisco.
Okay.
And he said, hey, we just got an interesting call from Los Angeles. And on the call, there's a guy named Bruce McNall who wants to see if you'd be interested in playing football in the CFL. I was like, the CFL? And when I was little, I remember sometimes I'd be up real late at night and no football would be on.
Right.
All of a sudden, you'd get this game and these guys are playing and they have 3 downs to score to fill the
right. Right.
There was a whole bunch of black quarterbacks up there. I was like, yo, okay, that's where the black quarterbacks go. They go to camp.
Right.
So now the call comes in and he said, hey, we're going to talk later today. And if I think it's something that's worthwhile, I'll call you back later tonight.
Okay.
So I go to class, go to the North Diner Hall, doing it, whatever, just chilling, and get back to the room. And he says, hey, this is real. He says, we're going to hang up. And he said, you're going to get a call from his secretary and be ready to get the instructions from her because you're going to have to go out to Los Angeles tomorrow. So I'm like, what? My heart starts beating. I'm like, what is happening? What's going on? Man, I get a call from, I forget the name of his business. But anyway, I get a call from his secretary.
Right.
And she's like, hi, this is so-and-so. The car will be waiting for you at, where Grace Hall was, and the Stepping Center was like behind,
right?
And there was that 2-lane road, like 2-lane, a part of road, that guard gate, and then you can go down and park in there, or you can pull up behind Grace.
Right.
Well, apparently, and I was like, how are they gonna get on campus? I don't have any whatever. all I know, he said the driver's gonna be there. I was like, well, what should I bring? He said, oh, don't worry, we'll go shopping for everything you need. Man, next day, get the call, go downstairs. There's a driver. Back in the day, they didn't have the town cars yet. There was just the stretch limousines. Get the limousine, and I realized that I don't have I didn't know. Did I have a driver's license? I think I had a driver's license, or maybe I'd gotten one that summer. I don't know.
Okay.
But I didn't have a car, so why would I need a driver's license? But I remember driving to the airport, but then we went past the regular airport where I didn't even know South Bend had a different section. and I was like, wait, I started getting a little nervous. Like, what's going on, son? And then they pull up and he gets out. And this is the thing. And it was like, when you don't expect certain things or understand things, when a word or a message comes into your brain, it's like sometimes your brain has a hard time deciphering it. So I remember he was like, hey, your plane is waiting for you through those doors. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so I walked through the doors, and there's this little, it's not a terminal, it's just like a little bypass, and there was not a desk, there were the attendants there. And it was like a little nice little area. And then like right outside of a door in front of me was the runway. Okay. And bruh, I walk out, she's like, oh yeah, hey Rocket, your plane is right out there. And I'm like, why do I keep saying my plane? I was like, I get out there, and there is the plane that the Los Angeles Kings use. I think it was Bruce McDonald. It was a huge, it was a big plane, and there was just the flight attendant, the captain, and the co-captain. And they were just sitting there waiting for me, and it had the big LA Kings logo on the tail. And I'm walking towards them, and they're smiling like, hey, welcome aboard. Bruh, I get on the plane, and it's like, remember when we used to, like on the recruiting visits, they take you to like the nicest either restaurant or spot on campus. And like for us at the time, like the highest level of culinary excellence was like shrimp cocktail, steak, maybe some bacon wrapped mushrooms or something. Just like stuff you don't never normally eat. Right. Lobster, bruh. It was just me, and this thing was loaded down with all. Man, it had I put like 5 Snickers bars in my pocket just in case they change their mind later. It was like candy everywhere, food, all the drinks, sodas and everything, whatever. I was like, wow. Captain came back. He's like, okay, we can take off the normal way, or we can take off like a rocket. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I think we're going to take off like a rocket. So there was a monitor on one of the walls. He's like, okay, watch this. And he showed us where we were in South Bend. And he's like, we're flying to Los Angeles. And he said, just a monitor. So that was like high tech for back in the day, right? Man, I'm on that bad boy. He took off, and instead of like the normal build up to the runway, he took off, and then it felt like the plane did just like this. Oh my God. Oh, nah. And he was like, you all right back there? I was like, oh yeah, I guess I am. Take off, get to Los Angeles about, let me see, we're going west. So it probably took us about 3.5, 4 hours, and get to Los Angeles. The car and everything meets me at a private section of the Los Angeles, wherever in Los Angeles. Right. They immediately take me to Rodeo Drive. Bruh, as a side note, that was the first time I was in Los Angeles since the time when you, Stoney, T-Light, and it was my freshman year, and we were at We were on the Bob Hope All-American.
I remember that.
and remember, Mark Carrier said there was a party on campus, and we all piled into his Volkswagen. Was it a Rabbit? Jetta.
Jetta.
It was you.
Oh my God.
G-Light, Leroy Butler, Emmett Smith, Mark was driving, and me in a Volkswagen Jetta.
Oh my God. And I remember that.
That was the first time I was in Los Angeles until then. Now I don't know if we'll get in trouble for this, so I won't say this is a true story. I might be embellishing right now. I might be, but remember we were in was Studio City. I think it was Studio City. The hotel was on a big hill, and I remember when we were in the limousine. Somebody had a calling card.
Yep.
And we got on the phone in the back of the limo, and we start calling everybody. Yeah, man, we on Sunset Boulevard. We out right. It was hilarious. Oh my God, we probably got all kinds of radiation poison from that phone. Anyway, that was the first time there.
Okay.
So the first time since that time.
Right.
Got to Beverly Hills, went to all these stores, bought all this new, like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, yeah, I'll take this, take that. Bags, stuff, shoes, whatever. I got dressed. Then they were like, we're going to, I think it was called the Forum Club. So the Great Western Forum was where, it was a big deal back in the day.
Okay.
91.
Right.
We got there, went to the Forum, bruh. This was like the elite Hollywood, bruh. This is the first time in my life I saw men that had smoother skin than women. Like I was like, wait, what is happening?
Oh my God.
Possible, like crazy. Got down there, like I was a talk of the town. I'm seeing familiar faces, but I don't know who is who. Everybody's like, hey, Rocky, welcome to the club, whatever. And then we ate down there, and I meet Bruce McNall, and man, he's just like, hey man, really happy to see you, meet you, whatever. Really excited to share this opportunity with you, man. We just want you to enjoy the night, whatever. So he owns the Kings.
Right.
So
right.
He, after we eat and everything, hobnob, whatever, we go up to his box, and we're in his box, and all these celebrities come up, say what's up, sound, bruh. Sylvester Stallone came up in that camp, and he had I don't know if he had three of his most beautiful women friends with him, and he was like, they were all holding on, and he was like, hey, Rocky, man, welcome to California, so whatever. And then I was like, oh snap, Rambo was in the house. What in the world was crazy? And then I think Super Dave Osborne was there. Rest in peace. Maybe like some comedians, somebody else. And then I was like, hey man, I want to go down by the ice. Okay. So I go down by the ice. And now remember I told you that when we were 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and we're cleaning the varsity locker room. Right. I'm getting told stories about all like these Notre Dame and one of them was Bob Golick. Okay. Bruh. I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah. And I turn around. Like, oh snap. That's Bob Golick. I run down. I was like, hey man. Oh my God. I was like, it's a crazy scene, but it was like I flashed back to when I was a little boy. Sure. And it was like meeting the Lord of Middle Earth or something. It was like, oh yo, I remember you. That was what I remember. We used to find him, and I was like, hey man, what's happening with? And he was sitting there like, why are you making such a big deal? But I was so excited. And so I hung out. Then I was like, okay, I got to reel it in. I'm embarrassing him. I'm out here making a big deal out of it. So I was talking to him. And then I went back, watched it the next day. Staying at this, I don't know where I stayed. It was this really amazing hotel suite. Was then breakfast. Then we went to his office in Century City.
Okay.
It was so cool because he was into like collectibles and like he knew how to create. He showed me how you create a market for collectibles or things that you want to increase their value. Like he showed me how you do that. He had produced several pretty big time movies, and then he gave me his vision. And he's like, look, I know the CFL is like not on your radar and all this stuff. He said, but because, he was in the level at the time where guys who own NFL teams, they talk to each other. Right. And so he knew that the NFL was going to be looking to expand. And I think NFL Europe, either it was already started or like the NFL is like, okay, we got to expand, we got to grow. And there was a certain time within the next 4 or 5 years, that there was going to be talk of expansion teams being added to the NFL. Okay. So his idea was, he's like, look, man, Toronto is an amazing market. Like that's outside of Chicago, Toronto's my favorite North American city. Okay. And he said, we want to position it where when the NFL comes and they want to have a franchise expanded, that Toronto will be one of the teams or one of the cities that they consider. Right. He said, look, he said, now watch this. Now, mind you, I told you all of the conversations that we had with the NFL teams. Everybody offered 5 years, $1.5 million, 400 signing bonus. That was it. Bruh, I'm sitting there. He's like, so we'll give you a 4-year, $4 million a year base salary. And so in my mind, I was like, huh? Wait, is that even possible? Like, who makes $4 million in a year? Like, what? He didn't bat his eye. There was no, like, you could tell, like, that type of money was nothing to him. Like, well, I'm not going to say nothing to him.
Right. I understand.
The realm that he operates in. Okay, watch this. Remember we were talking about the answer, remedy, solution, that there's levels that are possible and levels that you'll never reach because you don't think they're possible. So the truth of your understanding is this is impossible. So you'll never be able to even grab the whole truth, which is it's actually possible. Bruh, I'm sitting there and I don't know if some slob came out of my mouth. I was like, what? And I'm looking at him and he's like, and what we'll do, we'll give you 10% ownership on top of your base salary and you'll get whatever. And I don't know if it was like 150,000 Canadian. Okay. I don't know what the base salary was or the max salary was for the team. Right. But he was just like, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, did he say $4 million in a year? What? How is that? What? And he was like, and what we'll do is you'll sign a CFL contract, but then you'll have a personal services contract. And he was explaining the whole thing. And I think something similar, was Donald Trump did with Herschel Walker. Okay. Back then with the New Jersey Generals. Okay. Like it was some kind of big deal. And he's sitting there and he's explaining all these different facets. And he was like, hey man, I have conversations in realms where people talk about, hey, this is going to be a hot thing, or this is going to be a cool thing, and you can invest in this. And he said, I'll give you privy to those conversations. Like he was making it like, man, whatever you want, whatever we could do to get you here. And I was just like, and see what I think what happens to us when we were at Notre Dame, we tapped into it a little bit when we realized that Michigan, USC, Tennessee, Miami, not like Florida State after. Like we realized there were certain games that were going to be branded game of the century. And because of that, we were going to be the focal point of the entire football nation.
Right.
And we used to call them Sports Illustrated games. Remember, like, man, somebody gonna be on Sports Illustrated.
Right. Exactly.
Like, so I didn't understand all of that, and I didn't understand the massive following and appeal that all of that had.
Okay.
But he understood that, because he's in that creative realm where he's like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and he can see how things would come together, and the tension and the momentum and all that. So I'm like, okay, yeah. And he was like, well, before you make a decision, we're going to fly up to Canada. And man, this is like some baller type stuff, man. So he was like, all right, so we're going to fly up to Canada tomorrow, and we're going to go. We're going to show you we're going to show you Toronto. We're going to get some of the stars of the team. The team already had a lot of key pieces. So Matt Dunnigan, the quarterback, I think he went to Louisiana State or Louisiana Tech. One of those, Lafayette or something. And then we had Mike Pinball Clemens, who's like the mayor of Toronto right now.
Wow.
Harold D.K. Smith, who was their top receiver. Carl Brazeley, I think was their top, maybe even Reggie Pleasant, who is a chaplain for Clemson right now.
Okay.
He's been that for a minute. Carl Brazeley, who was one of their top defensive guys, and was like one of the last Grey Cups they won. He was like the MVP and all that stuff.
Wow.
So they took me there. Well, the facilities that we had at Notre Dame was not like it is now. So it was kind of like comparable. But it was like they were just showing me around the town and just like man, you can do this. And I was like, man, so we flew up, did that. Then they flew me back to school.
What, you were like class like on Monday? I mean, like what?
Yeah, for real. No, it was a weekend. It was like Friday morning leave, Friday night, get there, Saturday morning game, Sunday fly, Monday or Tuesday, something like that, fly back to South Bend. And I'm in a doggone I was in a marketing class or something. Somebody
like, wait a minute, 2 hours ago.
Bro, it was crazy. I walked into one of my classes. It was a business marketing, and the professor, we used to call him Teach.
Okay.
He was a big time. He was an adjunct professor. He was a big time. I think he owned car dealerships or something.
Yeah, his actual name was Eugene Fanning. I actually had him for a couple classes. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Eugene Fanning.
Teach. That's him. Bro, I walked in his class. It might have been 15 people in there or something. Right. It was a senior level. And everybody was clapping. I was like, oh snap. Because I guess it got out on the news or whatever. But next thing you know, we put all the stuff together, signed with them, then went to the Anaheim Convention Center. There was a big convention, like a big sports collectibles kind of convention. Right. We did like a little press conference there, signed some cards, and I'm oblivious to whatever's happening. Right. The next day is the NFL draft, I think, and we announced that I'm going to Canada the day before the draft. Breaking news everywhere. Wow. I remember, and this is like when ESPN was like 4 guys with a good idea. Right. On the camera, you know what I'm saying? They were like in the newsroom in their garage. And it was just like, that was a big deal. Then we fly, I I don't know if it was that week or maybe it was the day of the draft or the week of the draft.
Right.
We fly to Canada. I don't have a passport or a driver's license, bruh. So we get to customs.
Whoa.
And I'm like, hey, I don't have anything to get in. I don't know how I got in the first time, but now I think about it. But we get to customs, and in the like they're in their little pen, and we walk up, and they're like our passport, something. And I look around, I was like, so everybody's giving their passport or whatever, or their ID, and they asked me, I was like, I don't have one, but I was like, hey, I was like, see that paper right there? So their paper, the son,
that's me,
was right behind him. My picture was plastered right on the front. I was like, that's me right there. So he turned around, I was like, oh, what? And he held it. I was like, oh, hey, welcome to Canada. I was like, all right, let's do it.
Wow.
Get in, do the press conference, get back to after the press conference. I don't know if classes had ended or not. So I may have gone back to South Bend after that, then headed back to Pennsylvania. And then the season started, like training camp started in June. So April, so I might have had like 2 months to get acclimated and get everything ready. And then, man, before you know it, it was like I'm shopping. I mean, not shopping, like it was crazy because we're like looking for houses for my mother. And man, it's amazing because so much stuff I would have wished I would have did. I would have, if looking back on it, I would have stayed in the house on Ray Street. I just would have. We could have learned on that house, just fixed it up, and then taking our time looking for a place to live, or even knowing what to look for when you're looking for a new house and stuff. So, but anyway, we went house shopping for her. I'm in my grandmother's house. Well, at the time, it might have cost $50,000 when they first purchased it, like in 1918 or something like that.
Sure.
Bruh, I'm in the house, and back in the day, when people would come to pick you up, and you could, it was like you knew the horn was honking for whoever was in that particular house.
Right.
Bruh, I go to the front door. My mother is in a 1991 Mercedes SL 500 or 300, one of those. Okay. And the top was down. She's in a driver's seat. Some guy I never saw was in the. It turned out to be. He became a good family friend, Greg Stiles. He was in the driver's seat, and it was just like he was looking at me like, "Hey man, I did what I could. I tried to." And she was like, "I like this." She like, I was like, so there was a $83,000 Mercedes 2-seater drop top in the convertible in the street. She's like, yes. And in our little, it wasn't a garage, it was a shared driveway with the next house to us. Was probably a 1990 or 1989 Ford Tempo.
Of course.
I was like, wow, this is hilarious.
Oh my God.
We get that, move up to Toronto, get the end up buying a penthouse in this brand new building right downtown that was right up the street from where, I mean, it was some cool, really cool stuff. Ended up joining the team, bro. We won the doggone Grey Cup that year. Right. End up being the MVP, and check it out. Even in that game, at that time, we came out, took a kick to the house, which gave us the momentum, won that game, and big parade. John Candy. Oh, that's the other thing. John Candy and Wayne Gretzky were partners with Bruce McNall on purchasing the Argonauts. Right. So it was like my 10% stake was in with them, got to meet John Candy and hang out. And man, Wayne Gretzky was actually still playing at the time.
Right.
So like you could still tell he had the players kind of mentality focused. His dad was amazing. And man, I was talking to Ralph Wiley, and he was like, well, eventually, your contract here will be up and you still can go to the NFL after that. And I was like, man, so he's like, what team do you want to go to the NFL? And again, looking back, man, like as a receiver, and this the other thing, I was so bootleg as a receiver because we don't ball that, man. It was like, just get the ball in your hand. So I had no receiving ability or anything. So it was like in my mind, I just was like, well, I guess I'm fast. And I hear Al Davis likes fast guys.
Oh my God.
And I know California is really nice and warm. And it was cool when I went out to Los Angeles. Like, what about the Raiders that they had been in Los Angeles for a couple of years. They're like, I was like, what about the Raiders? And he said, you know what? That's a good thought, because I was thinking, if I were to like be in this position now and have that, I'm like, man, first of all, I think of who is the coach and or the team that has the most successful receivers, has an amazing quarterback, has an amazing system. Like I would have thought about all of that. And if I would have thought about all of that back in the day, it probably would have been San Francisco.
Okay.
But it was just like I didn't have that understanding. So ended up calling out Davis on I think the first day of the draft. And then they ended up drafting me the 100th pick. I don't know if I think that's day 2.
Okay.
And all the NFL were like, wait, what? They just got Rocket? I thought he was in the CFL. Wow. So it was like a big hubbub again. And man, that's really played one more year in the CFL. The Bruce McNaugh got into some financial issues with the government.
Okay.
And I ended up going to Los Angeles in '93, and that started the NFL journey.
Wow. It's kind of interesting. So we have a second question.
Okay.
And it's from John Meeks. This is kind of interesting. Which did you like more, college or pros?
I probably would say, once I understood things, I would say college, and only because it was still at the point where things were just flowing to me. It wasn't a lot of extra stuff you have to think about and have to deal with. And at that moment, it was just like you're still in a bubble, in as much as dealing with real world issues when you're in college. And I had and I know a lot of guys' college experience is just garbage, man. They have, even guys who go to Notre Dame, man, they just have the worst experience. I feel like I was in college, I was protected from all of that. Mm-hmm. And so for me, college is definitely better in my estimation than it was in the pros.
Okay. We're going to wind down a little bit, but I wanted to mention before I talked about how after your junior year, you left early. Mm-hmm. And I know that you and I kind of share a couple things, but it was interesting after my mom passed away that, and obviously, you supported me and everything else, but the idea that was kind of influential in you making a decision. Can you share that with us? Man,
so to give you context, one of the things that I've had experiences with in my life was, and still to this day actually, I have dreams. And a lot of my dreams will be about things that I'll actually experience the next day. And that day when we got back from the bowl game down in Miami, remember we got back late that night, or whenever it was the night. And I remember I slept in, and then I had a dream. And then in the dream, And I slept in the back room because everybody else was, sleeping, tired. It was really late when I got back. Because we had fly to Philadelphia and then drive up from Philadelphia because the Wilkes-Barre airport was closed. The Scranton airport was closed. It was a regional airport at that time.
Okay.
Or it was kind of like how South Bend's airport was, maybe even a little smaller. But I remember I was sleeping and then I had a dream that my brother came in the room and was like, woke me up. He was like, Raghib, Chris' mom passed. And it was like, he was like, really like, it was like he was heartbroken and scared and all at once. And so, but I'm dreaming this.
Right.
And so you can feel the same emotions in a dream, or everybody, that you would if you're awake. And so next thing I know, my brother came back in the room and literally everything that I dreamt, he did and said. And we went into my grandmother's room with my mother, and we were just sitting on the bed, just like, oh man. And I just remember, like, it was like sadness and a sense of fear. And it was just like, I was sitting there on the bed, like, I need to do something. Like, remember I told you my dad used to say, you're the man of the house when I'm not around. Well, one of the things that my life would revolve around when I was younger was trying to figure out how to be a man. But now the man is gone. So I'm like trying to gravitate to different guys and stuff like that. And it was like on the bed, it was like, I got to do something. I got to be a man. And then I remember it was like a part of me was like, whoa, well, one of the reasons why I wanted to, after I started realizing that you can earn a living playing football, and that's in the pros, hey, buy your mother a house or provide for her, that kind of like, that's for most people, your mother's like the first woman you want to make sure she's okay.
Right.
And so the thought while we were sitting there on the bed is like, man, I got to do something. What can I do? What should I do? And I remember we mentioned we were in Los Angeles. And I remember when we were, I think this might've been my sophomore year, your junior year. We were with, I think, Emmett and Leroy Butler, and maybe Stoney was there. I'm not sure, but I remember they were talking about going pro. Okay. And they kept asking me, like, hey, you gonna go pro, man? And I was like, huh? What are you talking about, go pro? Oh man, you can go pro. You can, and they were saying it like it was like just facts. Like, right. My understanding wasn't even in that realm. And I remember that thought came back to me when I'm sitting on the bed with my mother and my brother, and we're like sad, and I'm sad and scared. Like, oh man, what if something happens to my mom and I can't fulfill the part of the take care of your mom thing? And I was like, well, and this is like one of the kind of regrets, because now I understand, you don't make decisions, especially big decisions, when you're scared or out of fear to a motivator. But it was like, at the time, it was my way of being a man, and like, okay, well, I might be shaking on the inside, but I'm gonna stand up and you're not gonna know it from the outside. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll just go pro. And they were like, huh? Okay. And then it was just like, we cried a little bit, said a prayer for you. And then I just remember, I don't know when going back, when the bowl game was over and then it was time, but it was a time in between there to go back to school. But in between then and going back to school, I think we got in touch with Mr. Dwyer and maybe some other people, and they were like, okay, well, this is the process, this is what you need to do. And so I remember going back to school, telling Coach Holtz, and like just starting the whole process and just feeling like I was kind of like, it was like on the inside, I felt like I was in a whirlwind of, I don't know what I'm doing, and just like really, really afraid. But it was like, put up a good front on the outside, and, because now I'm doing what men are supposed to do. Men are supposed to provide for their family.
Right.
Men are supposed to look out for the well-being of their loved ones. And this is what you have to do. And even if you feel this way on the inside, you just have to take it. So essentially that's what happened, man. But yeah, bro, when I heard that, it was just like, it was like, I can imagine what you must have felt, but it was crazy for me in Pennsylvania. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's how that went down.
Well, this is one of the last questions, but I mean, you've been an amazing leader throughout your career. And so, I mean, I always ask folks like what is their take on leadership? Like how do you define being a leader? Like, what's leadership to you?
Oh, well, one of my goals in life, and I was able to narrow it down after years of trying to figure out like what do you want in life? What's the right? And it was like, one of my goals is peace, like the ability to apprehend peace at all times. And in spite of the circumstances, in spite of internal or external circumstances, peace is like the big deal for me. And I think a leader has the capacity to help you to tap into peace.
Okay.
And when I say that, I'm not talking about, sitting there and meditating. That's cool. That's
right.
Praying. That's cool. But ultimately, somebody who helps you develop the ability to overcome internal and external obstacles in order to come to a place of peace. And we live in an environment and in a world that has again, like we talked about in the beginning, it throws different things your way to disrupt your capacity to apprehend peace. And so for me, a leader, he or she knows how to help you tap into the ability to apprehend peace when you need it. And so that to me would be what I would, how I would define, or that's the aspect of leadership that I value most.
That's awesome, man. Dude, this was great, man. I learned so much. I feel like we can go on talking. This is great, man. We should be doing a reunion or something like that because this is great. Rock, man, thank you so much, man. This is awesome, man. I so look forward to this interview because having the chance to kind of spend so much time with each other, a little bit more important, I had a chance to learn so much. So I am very grateful for that. Thank you for those watching on Facebook and YouTube. And most of all, my wonderful wife team of Kylie and Candy. They were able to help me out with the production. If you want to check out this podcast and other podcasts, please go to Chris Zorich 50 on YouTube. Rock, thank you so much, man. This was awesome, brother.
Hey, bro. I hope, man, we get a chance to do it again, and we could even talk on like specific topics. Like I know we covered like kind of general stuff, but like there's something that's going on down the line. So man, I thank you for, man. Let me tell you something, man. It was so cool meeting you. I hope you'll have no strict time or anything.
No, I'm good. I
remember we came. I remember we came to training camp freshman year, and it was kind of like we were in Grace Hall, and I remember they were like, "Yo, man, there's this guy on the team," because we were moving like the furniture around in the room, and the desk, man, these big wood oak desks that they have in the rooms. They were like, man, there's a guy on the team named Zorro. He could pick one of these up by himself and just move it around. And we were like, what? And so in my mind, it was like, I thought you were a fire-eating dragon, man. I was like, in my mind, it was like I imagined Debo. You know how like the personality of Debo, like ready to punk you. So it was like, I remember when I saw you, when the upperclassmen came, and you had on flip-flops, like you had feet like Fred Flintstone, and I was like, this dude is like a cross between the Incredible Hulk and the Thing. And your arms and your freaking you were so long and broad, and it was like, I was like, I'm not talking to him. And then I remember like, hey man, how you doing? Everything okay? I was like, you were like, this position was so like gentle isn't the word. It was so cordial, and it was just like so disarming. It was like, man, you're like I said, like in my mind, like, man, this cat is a dragon, boy. He gonna breathe fire and kill. Man, and you were just the most humble dude, the most cordial guy, man, kind, make people feel cool. And man, I just want to say that's important when you come into a new environment. You're already scared, right? But it's important that the guys who are already there, that already have significance, that they embrace you, that they set the tone like, hey man, you're welcome. And this is how we work. This is how we are successful. But I'm not here to beat you up, or I'm not here to intimidate you or whatever. I'm here to it's like love, family. And so I just want to say thank you.
That's awesome, man. That is great. I got 1,000 stories, but I mean, here's the thing, man. Can you promise that you'll be on again? Because, dude, we haven't even scratched the surface, man. Yeah. I would love to talk about kind of those amazing experiences at Notre Dame, the ones where, you know, it was just kind of you and your guys, you know, during the off season, you know, how did you make it through the rough winters? You know, when somebody heard bad news, like, what did you do? So for me, this isn't about, you know, how many stats you had, even though you had a lot. You know, this is about the type of person we are. And Rock, I think you really hit on the head by kind of being so you and, you know, outside of you and Pat, I'm not sure who the best storyteller is, Pat Carroll or you, because I mean, you tell amazing stories. And what's great is that, you know, everybody in the audience, I mean, they're right there with you. And I think that's so amazing, man. So I do appreciate this, man.
I definitely, yes, please bring me back.